Samsung just announced a brand new family of flagship smartphones and 3 brand new tablets at its latest Unpacked event. We're going to go hands-on with the new Galaxy S22 family of phones and the new Galaxy Tab S8 family of tablets next. Hi everyone, Marco Geppetto for Hot Hardware here. Thanks for joining us as we go hands-on with Samsung's latest devices. I figured we'd start with the Galaxy Tab S8 family. As we've mentioned, there's 3 new models coming: the Tab S8, the S8 Plus, and the S8 Ultra. Now all 3 are very similar. They just differ in their form factors and a couple of features. So the S8 has an 11-inch Full HD 120 Hertz display. The S8 Plus, slightly bigger, 12.4-inch, but a Super AMOLED 120 Hz display. And the S8 Ultra is the big boy. It has a 14.6-inch Super AMOLED display, also 120 Hz. In terms of their resolution, they also differ slightly. So the smallest Tab S8 has a native resolution of 2560 by 1600. The S8 Plus is 2800 by 1752, and the S8 Ultra is 2960 by 1848. All 3 of these devices are running Android 12 out of the box, and they're powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor. This is the latest 4nm octa-core processor from Qualcomm. All of these tabs also have a metal unibody construction, and in the hand they feel very premium and very rigid. So the S8 and S8 Plus, they will have 8 GB of RAM and either 128 GB or 256 GB of internal storage. And the big S8 Ultra will have 8 GB, 12 GB, or 16 GB options with 128 GB, 256 GB, or 512 GB of internal storage. All of them, however, can be expanded with an additional 1 TB with micro SD card. Now, in terms of their batteries, there are some differences due to the size of the Tab S8s. So they all support fast charging and all have Type-C USB 3.2 ports. The Tab S8 has an 8,000 mAh battery. The S8 Plus has a 10,090 mAh battery. And the S8 Ultra has an 11,200 mAh battery. All of them also support Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.2. The S8 Plus will also have a 5G option, and an S Pen is included with all 3. If you prefer to use the S Pen instead of your finger, you have that option right out of the box. We should note one other quick difference between the 3 tabs as well. They all offer face recognition for authentication, but their fingerprint scanners are in a slightly different place. So the S8 has a fingerprint scanner on the power button, while the S8 Plus and S8 Ultra have fingerprint scanners on the display. We hope to have a Tab S8 device in hand for independent evaluation soon. Keep an eye on hothardware.com for that review. Shouldn't be long. And with that, let's move on to the Galaxy S22 family of devices. So as we mentioned, there's an S22, S22 Plus, and S22 Ultra coming down the pipeline. They are all very similar in terms of their platform, but like the Tab S8, they have differing form factors and a few different features. The Galaxy S22 and S22 Plus are obviously the smaller of the 2 devices. The S22 has a 6.1-inch Full HD display, and the S22 Plus a 6.6-inch FHD Plus display. That's a resolution of 1080 by 2340. The displays are both dynamic AMOLEDs with 120 Hz refresh rates and 240 Hz touch input sampling rates for low latency input during gaming. In terms of their dimensions, the S22 Plus obviously a little bit larger. So both the S22 and S22 Plus are only 7.6 millimeters thin, but the S22 Plus measures in at 75.8 by 157.4 millimeters, while the S22 is 70.6 by 146 millimeters. The S22 Plus also a little bit larger at 196 grams versus 168 on the S22. In terms of their construction, though, virtually identical. They're both made of glass with an aluminum frame. As for their other specifications, the S22 Plus and S22 are very similar. They both have 8 gigs of RAM with either 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes of internal storage. The S22 Plus has a slightly larger battery at 4,500 milliamp hours versus 3,700 milliamp hours in the S22, and they both support wired and wireless charging, though the S22 Plus supports 45-watt wired charging, while the S22 comes in at 25 watts. And in the US, both the S22 and S22 Plus will be powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor. The camera setups are also the same on the S22 Plus and S22, though they do differ from the S22 Ultra. So on the rear, there's an ultra-wide 12-megapixel camera with a 13mm focal length and a 120-degree field of view with an f2.2 aperture, a wide-angle camera with a 50-megapixel sensor, a 23mm focal length with an 85-degree field of view and f1.8 aperture, and a 10-megapixel telephoto with a 69mm focal length, a 2.4 aperture, and 36-degree field of view, but there's also a 3x optical zoom and 30x space zoom. The front camera is a 40-megapixel f2.2 shooter with an 80-degree field of view. Build quality is impeccable on both devices, and they both feel excellent in the hand, and performance is top-notch with that flagship Qualcomm processor inside. Which brings us to the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Now, this larger device features a 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display, also with 120 Hz refresh rate and a 240 Hz touch sampling rate. It's also built around the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor and has the same glass and metal frame, though obviously it's larger to accommodate the larger display. In terms of its dimensions, the S22 Ultra weighs in at 77.9 millimeters by 163.3 millimeters by 8.9 millimeters thick, and it's 229 grams. That larger body also makes room for a larger battery, however, which is 5,000 milliamp hours. And the wired charging bumps up to 45 watts, but it still supports 15-watt wireless charging. There's really only one thing different in terms of the buttons and ports on the S22 family. On the right, you'll find the volume rocker and the power/lock switch. On the top, there's a single microphone port. On the left, it's virtually bare. And on the bottom, there's a USB-C charge and sync port, along with some speaker venting. And the S22 Ultra adds a nook for the S Pen. The S22 Ultra is essentially the spiritual successor to the Note series. There's an array of memory and storage configurations for the S22, ranging from 8 to 12 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes to 1 terabyte of internal storage. The camera array is also very different on the S22 Ultra. There's a ultra-wide 12-megapixel camera on the back with a 120-degree field of view, 13mm focal length and f2.2 aperture. There's also two telephoto cameras, one left, one right. They're both 10 megapixel. The left camera has an 11-degree field of view with 230mm focal length and an f4.9 aperture with 10x optical zoom and up to 100x space zoom. The telephoto on the right has a 36-degree field of view with a 69mm focal length and 2.4 aperture with a 3x optical zoom. And finally, there's the wide-angle camera that's up to 108 megapixels. It has an 85-degree field of view with 23mm effective focal length with f2.2 aperture. Now, this camera can shoot in a full 108 megapixel high-resolution mode or use a new Nona binning mode, as Samsung calls it, that will bin multiple pixels together to get much better dynamic range and better low-light shooting. Samsung's camera application is also as feature-rich as you remember. Tons of features inside the app, from manual shooting modes to configuring the multitude of photo and video shooting options, which include 8K video at 24 FPS or 4K video at 60 FPS. As is usually the case with Samsung's flagship devices, the displays on all of the S22s look absolutely phenomenal up close. Everything is buttery smooth. The colors are punchy with high contrast and good brightness. Really nothing to complain about with the displays at all. Of course, there's an array of color-matched cases on the way, including simple bumpers and folios, and Samsung has an array of accessories available, also in matching colors. With that, I think we'll wrap things up. Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait for the full review to see benchmark scores on the S22 devices as well. If you enjoyed this quick look at the S22 and Tab S8 family of devices, please do us a solid and like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment on the video as well. We'd love to meet you. And if you want to meet us and chat with us live, Wednesday nights, 5:30 Eastern, come check out our 2.5 Geeks podcast. Once again, this is Marco Chiappetta for Hot Hardware. Thanks for stopping by.